Okay, so we are on then to 3.2, which ties in very closely, I would say, with 3.1. As you can see here from the title of this slide, we're just looking here at a few other terms to use with categorical propositions. So it's just a bit more definitions. And so as we turn to the first thing we need to think about here, the letter names of the propositions, I actually want to go ahead and direct your attention to the very end of section 3.2 in your text, which has above the exercises there, has a table, and on the far left-hand side of it, it lists all of the different standard form categorical propositions. And as you move over from left to right, column-wise, it starts off with the letter name, as we'll get to here, and then, again, the quantity and quality. And then I also want to note here at the very end of that list, and you read about this in 3.2, it says terms distributed. You can go ahead and ignore that whole concept of terms distributed. It's just not something that we are going to find a use for in this class, and so just don't worry about terms distributed there at all. However, having said that, I definitely would encourage you to put this table, leaving out terms distributed, on your note sheet for the first exam. I think you'll find it helpful. Okay, so, and I'll illustrate that in a minute. But the thing is, logicians don't want to always have to say, oh, you know that all S or P statement over there, it's a mouthful. We want to cut to the chase, and so let's just give it a name, right? And so the name we'll give it as an A statement, and then when we get to no S or P, we'll call that an E statement. And then when we get to some S or P, we'll call that an I statement. And then finally, some S are not P, we'll go ahead and call that an O statement, right? So A, E, I, and O are the four standard form categorical propositions, and you can see that again listed in that table there at the end of 3.2, which organizes all of this information. So again, you don't have to memorize this, but I think you'll get the hang of it pretty quickly because all goes with A, and then just goes in the order of the vowels here, and all to know, some are, some are not. There's a pattern there, and I think you'll get the names hopefully fairly quickly. There are, as you see though, other useful terms for categorical propositions, and so we are going to say that for each of the four standard form categorical propositions, they have a particular quantity, right? Like how much. And how much will be labeled either universal or particular, right? And I think this is very intuitive, right? So in other words, if I were to tell you that all cats are mammals, that does sound like a very universal kind of statement here, right? Okay. On the other hand, if I were to tell you that no cats are reptiles, again, that's a universal kind of statement. No, none at all. On the other hand, if I tell you that some cats are calicos, well, that's more particular, right? We're not talking about every cat. We're talking about particular cats. And we're saying some are calicos. And likewise, if I tell you that some cats are not calicos, again, particular, it's talking about specific cats that aren't calicos. And in fact, as you see in the table and as you see here, universal statements, those would be the A and the E, and the particular categorical propositions would be I and O. We also have quality. Again, I think this is intuitive. Quality, right? Not how much, but a different kind of category, quality. And we would say that each of these standard form categorical propositions is either affirmative or negative. Okay, affirmative or negative. And so again, if I said all cats are mammals, well, that's affirming something, right? So that's affirmative. On the other hand, clearly, if I said no cats are reptiles, no, definitely, that's the essence of negativity, no. If I said some cats are calicos, well, I'm making an affirmative statement about cats. But again, if I say some cats are not calicos, the word not is definitely negative. And that is, again, how this turns out. The A and the I statement, as you see here, are affirmative, and the E and the O statement are considered negative. And again, you can read all of that off right there from the chart or the table at the end of 3.2. You can ignore those other slides. We're going to go ahead and look at the book because it is just that short of a section here. So in section 1, it says, for each of the following categorical propositions, identify the letter name, quantity, and quality. It says, then state whether the subject and predicate terms are distributed or undistributed. Well, we don't need to worry about that last part. So number 2 says, all governments that bargain with terrorists are governments that encourage terrorism, right? And I just want to be clear about this. This is how I'd actually do that one. I would start it and I'd read 2, dot, I'd get to that first letter of the sentence. And I'd see that it's an A, and that tells me all I need to know. If the first letter of the sentence is an A, it's an A statement. It is universal, and it is affirmative. On the other hand, right, the challenge here, the biggest challenge, will be when you get to something like number 3, some symphony orchestras or organizations on the brink of bankruptcy, because the first letter is S. So it could go in a variety of different ways. We read the whole sentence, though, and we recognize, okay, some are, so that would be an I statement. It would be affirmative, and it would be particular. Okay. Going down to number 6, it says no labor strikes are events welcomed by management. So the first letter there is N. So we know it's an E statement. We know it's universal. We know it is negative. Okay? So the only trick there is if the quantifier some, then you're simply going to look at the copula. Is it R or is it R not? And that will tell you I statement or O statement, as it turns out. So you'll see something like that on the exam, give you these standard form categorical propositions. You will identify the quantifier, subject term, copula, predicate term, and then you will continue by giving me the letter name, the quantity, and the quality. Okay? Now, having done all that, we can move to the second set of exercises, which actually gets us prepared for what's going to be coming here later on in Chapter 3. So number 2 here says no wildlife refuges are locations suitable for condominium developments. Our task, as we see in the instructions, is to change its quality but not its quantity, right? So that means we have to recognize the original statement is negative. We need to change the quality, so from negative to affirmative. We also recognize that the original statement is universal, but we want to keep the quantity the same. So we're going to be looking for the affirmative universal statement. As you can read off that table there at the end of 3.2, the affirmative universal statement would be an A statement, and so we would get all wildlife refuges are locations suitable for condominium developments. Now, we don't need to reflect on, does it go from true to false or anything like that, though, that might occur to you, but we won't worry about that. If you turn the page to exercise set 3, let's just try a couple more here, and then we basically tackled 3.2. Exercise set number 3 asks us to change the quantity, so how much, but not the quality. And so let's go ahead and go to number 3 there. Some grade school administrators are people who choke the educational process. So we can recognize that it's a some are, so it's an I statement. So we need to change the quantity. So it's particular as it is. We need to make it universal. It's affirmative as it is. We need to keep it affirmative. So the universal affirmative statement, well, we know that one. It's the A statement. And so we would get all grade school administrators are people who choke the educational process. Finally, in this 4th set of exercises here, we get sort of the ultimate challenge, if you like. We're going to change both the quality and the quantity. So both. So let's go ahead and look at number 2. No alcoholics are people with a healthy diet. So it's obviously negative and universal. So we want to make it affirmative and particular. And the affirmative particular statement would be the some are, right, the I statement. And so we would get some alcoholics are people with a healthy diet. Okay? And you can, again, don't worry about whether that's true or not, but that's what you would end up with there. Okay? So you definitely want to try all of these exercises, especially start with the starred ones. Make sure you're getting the hang of understanding these concepts of quantity and quality, right? Universal particular, affirmative negative, as you see here, and make sure you get the letter names down, and you'll be well prepared for what you'll see on the first exam.